Hey guys, and welcome back to another video of EZK Sports, and today I'm going to be doing my MLW 2024 season predictions, including standings predictions, playoff predictions, and of course award predictions. If you want some great wiffle ball content all throughout the 2024 season, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, let's start with the AL, and at number 4 is going to be the Coastal Cobras. This team is just not even close to as good as the other 3 teams in their division, and if you watched my roster rankings video, which you should definitely go watch, they were the worst team by far. And it's not like their schedule is very favorable either. They play the Preds, and their pitching strategy in Slate 1 is going to be to use Barron as the starter, Chris in Game 2, Irwin and Drew both pitching in Game 3. I think you're going to see a Pred sweep there. They dominated last year. And then I think you fall short in both the Magic and Wildcats series and get swept against the D-backs and Mallards. This team is really going to need to figure out their pitching. They need that ace. If Barron can go back to being that guy, that would be huge. Throughout Slate 1 and 2, it seems like they're going to be filtering out all 8 guys in the lineup, and that is just not a method for success if you have so many guys in so many different spots. The Cobras know, and everybody knows, this is just not going to be a good year for them, and that is why I have them at number 4 with a record of 2-13. Just sneaking into the playoffs, I have the Metro Magic at 6-9. I know that sounds surprising, but if you really just look through their roster, they just aren't a very good team. Now, yes, they have RJ Walgate, who did amazing last year. They have Grant Miller, both rookies last year going in their second season, who were 2 top 10 players easily last year. But, I mean, you look at their schedule, I mean, beside the Cobras, there aren't really any easy series. They don't get the benefit of playing the Gators. I could honestly see them getting swept in a series like the Mallards. Maybe if the Wildcats really figured it out, or the Eagles, maybe you could see a max of like 8-7. I think if you're looking at outside of the Gators and Cobras, I think they're the least talented team. And you saw that in my roster rankings video, but this lineup just isn't very good. Curdy, Ackerman, Bonham behind Miller, who's obviously the best hitter in MLW. And Bonham, I don't know if he can replicate his pitching from last year. I think the Magic have a lot more questions than answers, even though they just won the World Series last year. Coming in at number 2 in the AL at 8-7 is going to be the Western Wildcats. Now, I do have the Wildcats getting off to a little bit of a slow start, as I have them dropping series to both the D-backs and the Preds. I think it'll take some time to get their lineup and their rotation together. Then their schedule eases up a lot in the second half, as they have the Cobras, Gators, and Magic, who I think are the 3 worst teams in MLW. So I think the Wildcats are going to have a really good season. You add Ballman, you add Ty. If Saylor can come back this season, that would be huge. You have Kyle, who hit pretty well last year, and Pearson, who developed a lot on the mound and has a pretty good eye at the plate. I think this team is the most well-rounded team in MLW, especially when you consider depth. They just have to find that ace. But as for now, I have them sitting at 8-7, second in the NL. Coming in at first in the AL will be the Pacific Predators, who I have at 10-5. Now, the Preds got off to a slow start last year, looked good toward the end, unfortunately sucked against the Magic and lost. I think their schedule is pretty favorable. You play the Cobras, Gators, and Magic, the 3 worst teams in the league, like I said with the Wildcats. And the Wildcats, who honestly, if I was going to do a power ranking, I'd probably put them 5. So you obviously have Ryan Kracht, you have Levi Fleer, who, yes, he did struggle in spring training. I think if he can throw strikes, his stuff is nasty enough to the point where the other team is just not going to be able to hit it, especially considering a lot of the lineups he's facing. And then, I mean, you look at this beginning half of the schedule, I think Russ and Ward are going to have big years. Kracht might be up for some awards, maybe even a 3rd MVP. We'll get to that later. I think this team is going to be really good coming to this year. 10-5 is where I have them at. Maybe this is finally the year where the Wildcats actually beat them, but we shall see. And now shifting gears to the NL, we will start with the Great Lakes Gators at 5-10. Now, this team has been pretty bad the past 3 years and missed the playoffs the past 2. Honestly, 5-10 is kind of generous because I could easily have them getting swept by the Mallards, even the Wildcats, pretty much any team on here, especially in that stacked NL where you have the 3 best teams in the league, the Mallards, Eagles, and D-backs. I think this is another miss the playoffs year, but I think they're still going to be competitive. They might still have a record around 5-10, 4-11, 6-9, but they're going to be competitive. You might see a lot of 1-run losses. You might see more home runs than last year, at least. I think Cheatham's going to have a great season. I think Jeremy's a great add to their lineup. We'll see what happens with Sawyer and Chatty, but I think this team is definitely building something. Maybe they can make a run at the playoffs in 2025, but at least for this year, it's going to be tough with such a strong NL and a new squad. Coming in at number 3, due to tiebreakers, is going to be the Midwest Mallard. Now, I know you look at this and probably go crazy. You see an Eagles sweep. You see that they're in 3rd when most people have them going in 1st, and like 12-3. Their hitting is great. The World Series frontrunner right now. Benefit of playing the 3 worst teams, Cobras, Magic, Gators. I even have them beating the D-back, but I do have them getting swept by the Eagles. Now, every year, there is usually a surprising regular season sweep, and I think this is going to be the one. I think the Eagles do pull it off against the Mallards. Obviously, this team is fantastic. A lot of people were saying that Robles wasn't a true ace. I completely disagree with that. Colm will step into that number 2 role, maybe even the 4th hitter role. Maybe you see Harlington in there. Obviously, their top 3 hitters are better than anybody else's. So this team is going to be very good next year. Even though I have them getting swept by the Eagles, they're going to be probably going pretty far in the playoffs. And then at number 2, winning that tiebreaker over the Mallards will be the Eastern Eagles. I think a lot of people have been underrating the Eagles as of late, but I sort of understand why. Their lineup is not very firepowery. I mean, I think Landon's going to have a great season. I mean, Dallas is a great contact hitter, but they don't really have that power guy. I have them winning 4 out of their 5 series. I think they drop it to the D-backs. Dallas has pitched pretty well against the Mallards in the past. Obviously, the Eagles feed off of Robles. We saw that in the NLCS where they just kept getting hits off him. Landon, Dan, Waylon, Dallas putting everything into play. Blade pitched well against them. We'll see how they attack onto him. I think that effectively wild strategy will actually be effective against hitters like Tommy and Jorgensen. But at least something I want to know is, can Blade do it again? So we'll see how it works. Dallas is obviously a great pitcher. They have a deep lineup. You have Blade on the bench. You also got Carson. He'll put this team over the top, but they will be in second place at 9-6. And then coming in at number 1 in the NL will be the Downtown Diamondbacks at 10-5. This team, in my opinion, is pretty set. You got Knorp. I think he's going to do a lot better at the plate this year because he kind of has to. A lot of the reason why the D-backs didn't do as well as they could have last year was because Knorp was not that elite hitter that he kind of needs to be. Pishka year 2, I think, will be great. You got Heath, Bennett, Richard, Flood if you need him. Very deep at hitting and pitching. Knorp, I think, one of the best pitchers in the league. Trey, maybe the best second pitcher in the league. And you talked about depth for pitching. I mean, you got Bennett, you got Heath. You look at their schedule, you got a pretty free second half with the Cobras and Gators. First half is going to be tough. I think you drop it to the Mallards because I just don't see Jordan Robles losing out of state, especially when that series is probably going to be in New York City. I think the Wildcats might be a little bit vulnerable early just because they're still trying to figure out their team. This team is definitely a top World Series contender, could go all the way. Maybe they even do better than 10-5. Now we will move to the playoff prediction. All right, starting off in the ALDS will be the Wildcats over the Magic. I think your pitchers are probably going to be Pearson and Ballman. When it really comes down to it, I think the Wildcats hitting is significantly better than the Magic. Maybe they go to Bonham. I don't think Bonham's going to be that great this season on the mound, so maybe they're reluctant to do that. Maybe they go RJ again. And then the NLDS, you got the Mallards and the Eagles. I'm going to go with the Mallards in that series. I did have the Eagles sweeping them. I think after not only getting swept in the regular season for that NLCS last year, I think the Mallards are going to be mad. I think at this point, they're going to see Dallas better after now seeing him for a lot of series, and that's why I got the Mallards over the Eagles in the NLDS. And then the ALCS, this one was a tough one. The Wildcats have not done well against the Preds the last 2 years. I have the Wildcats taking this series. Pearson and Ballman will be those pitchers. I think maybe you see Preds do well off Pearson possibly. Just knowing the Preds, I feel like you're going to see Ballman come in, throw 2 great games, and then that's going to be it. I could very well see the Preds making it all the way, but it will be a 3rd straight ALCS loss in the 4th one in 5 years for them, and then it'll be another World Series appearance for the Wildcats. In the NLCS, we saw this D-backs Mallards matchup in 2022. It was great. I have it happening again, but I have a different result this time, and I have the Mallards over the D-backs. I don't have either 1 seed winning either division. I think the Mallards lineup is significantly better than the D-backs, and I think that will be a huge advantage in this matchup. Robles has to hit in the playoffs. This is finally the year where he does. He's got like 1 hit in however many at-bats. It's pretty bad. And that means you will have a Cats-Mallards matchup, Tommy versus Kyle, Jimmy Knorp commentating. And in that prediction, I have, after starting the season 2-4, kind of unsure what their future was going to look like. First overall pick, yes, it was by trades. Dominated by the Preds for a few years. Finally got over that hump. And after they got over that hump, they beat the Mallards, and the Wildcats win their 7th World Series. Who knows? Maybe this is Kyle's last year. I'd be surprised, but it would be a pretty good farewell. The Mallards haven't really seen, obviously they've never seen Ballman before. They only saw Pearson briefly, but that was with a terrible ball. The Wildcats saw Robles, did well off him. I think hitters like Kyle and Ballman will do well off of Robles' pitching style. So that's why I have the Wildcats over the Mallards in the World Series as my World Series champion. And now, before we end the video, I'd like to go over some award predictions. Rookie of the Year, I got Patrick Ballman. I think he's going to show up big time on the mound in the playoffs and at the plate. I think Jeremy could be a sneaky guy. Maybe Levi if he makes a big impact. That would be my top 3. And then Silver Slugger. Kracht has won every single award of relevance besides Silver Slugger. I think this is finally the year that he does it. And then for Cy Young, I got Jimmy Knorp. He's been doing a lot of work this offseason. He added a new pitch. So what is that? 6 pitches now. He's absolutely incredible. He's got some of the most movement in the league. Very accurate. I think this is definitely definitely a Jimmy Knorp Cy Young year again. And then most improved player. A very bad season for Cheatham last year. I think he gets it back this year and wins the most improved award. I think you're going to see some big things on the mound and at the plate. And manager of the year, of course, for winning the World Series, drafting Pat, drafting Ty, is going to be Kyle Schultz. I don't remember the last time he's won one of these, but he definitely is going to be winning it this year. The MVP, it's between a few guys for me. I think probably going to be one of those main four, which is, of course, Robles, Knorp, Kracht, and Dallas. Maybe you even see Ballman enter that category, but I'm not going to go that far quite yet. However, my MVP is going to be Jimmy Knorp. I think Jimmy's going to figure it out at the plate. I obviously have him winning Cy Young, so he'd be the best pitcher in the league. That will do it for my season predictions video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.